Kids, I did tell you to not elect a communist. I did warn you that if you elected a communist, socialist, Islamist, bad things were coming. And guess what? I also told you that if you trust an Islamist who in their religion have the belief that they are allowed to lie to you so that they can gain more power and prestige to the religion of Islam, that's not somebody that you should be trusting. And surprise, surprise, Mamdani has now announced that it's not that he's only going to be taxing the rich, which was his genius idea that everybody was so unbelievably excited about. When I say everybody, I mean the idiot socialists who don't want to actually make money. They just want to take other people's. Guess what? He's now announced that he's changing that because it's not enough and everybody's going to need to be taxed. So you, that poor socialist who was hoping Mamdani was just going to give you free rent, guess what just happened? Your rent is now going to go up because Mamdani needs more money for his enormous budget to transform New York City into an Islamist dump where you trip over garbage when you go outside. Isn't that just wonderful? But Mamdani's always been a liar and has always will be a liar, and we'll watch the footage of the announcement in a second. But let's first remind ourselves of who the person is that New York City decided to vote in their total and pathetic glory. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are here at The Pushback trying to make a difference and comment on the things that we think everybody's thinking, but people are just a little bit too afraid to say. We are the new majority, and we're not going to be so silent anymore. You know what I mean? Let's watch.
We can't take any more of your money. Truly, you need to stop. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Good job.
Fox, he go wide. New York one, he go wide. Right here, right here, right here, right here.
So focused on your city.
The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first?
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
This is the first Jamaat that I have been to since we won our election on Tuesday.
The first place that he decides to go to after lying to New Yorkers, being like, I'm here for you guys. I'm here for you guys. I'm not going to take your money, but now I want to take your money. And I'm not going to go to parades because I'm busy focusing on your city, but I have to go to a parade because I have to dance. Now he goes to a location where they yell to him, Allahu Akbar, yay, God is great, we love Islam. Because that's what he actually thinks about New York City. He thinks nothing. He thinks the only point of him getting into power is that Islam can take over. Such a sham.
If anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him.
We did reach out to the White House. I appreciate the meeting with the president. A campaign that is truly grassroots powered.
CARE Super PAC was the largest institutional donor to the pro-Zahran PAC in New York.
Yeah, well, obviously Canary Mission are out there doing a good job sharing the truth because it's about time that everybody know what is really going on. That CARE, hopefully you know at this point, is that enormous Islamist entity that pretends that it's just this political body when actually it just literally spreads Muslim Brotherhood rhetoric. And so that's Zoran Mamdani for you, a total and complete liar, making campaign promises left, right, and center, and then obviously taking all of them and actually proving that the only thing he's really here to do is to gain fame himself and to Islamize the city as much as possible. But one of the biggest promises that he made, besides the fact that he immediately admitted that he was going to take people's money, his whole thing was based on this idea of communism. But here's the news flash, friends, and if you're a young idiot, then this video is for you. Communism doesn't work. You can't take money from people so that everybody has money because that's how you de-incentivize people to be making money. And guess who ends up taking all of that money? Well, the people on the top. They just end up taking more, but they create this pretense, okay? This idea that only the people who already have so much, they should be giving more to make sure that the people at the bottom have enough. But guess what ends up happening? The people at the bottom who should be working to make money, to keep the economy going, decide not to because they're hoping that they're going to be fed. The people on the top who have been working so hard to make their money, that money is being taken away from them, so why should they work? And then nobody actually contributes to the society, and then the money disappears, but the money that is left over or that has been stolen goes into the pockets of the people on top. That's kind of what happens. That's the story of communism. Surprise, surprise, when he claimed that rent's going to be so much cheaper and that you're going to have free food and everything's going to be free. What he was actually saying is, I'm lying to you because I know that you're stupid and you don't know how the economy works. I'm going to pretend that I'm just going to take people from the top, money from the people from the top who have so much money that I could just take from them. But what's really going to happen is now that I've got you stuck under my leadership, I'm just going to take money from all of you to put my plans into action, which plans are not going to work. Because if they're anything like his garbage failure, we know exactly where that's going. And this brings us to his declaration yesterday, which has the world freaking out.
At the heart of this path is a property tax increase. This would effectively be a tax on working and middle-class New Yorkers who have a median income of $122,000. The second path also requires us to raid our reserves. It would mean withdrawing $980 million from our city's rainy day fund in fiscal year 2026 and $229 million from the Retiree Health Benefit Trust in fiscal year 2027. These are steps that have been taken before, but only in moments of extraordinary external crisis. Mayor Bloomberg's response to the 2008 financial collapse, and Mayor de Blasio's response to the enormous revenue shortfall caused by the pandemic. We do not want to have to turn to such drastic measures to balance our budget. At the heart of this path is a...
Basically, what he's saying here is that the Governor Cathy refused to hike taxes on New York City's wealthy because they understand that if you do that, then the wealthy are going to leave. And guess what? It's actually the governor who has the ability and the capacity to do this. And whilst I don't completely understand the difference between the mayor and governor, specifically when it comes to taxation on property, because that's such a niche topic, why would I know anything about it? And yes, I could ChatGPT it, but I didn't before this episode, so my apologies. He's basically saying that we're going to have to hike prices up because she won't do this for us because she's so bad. And Marty O'Donnell has posted this saying, this guy ran for office promising that he would raise taxes on billionaires and freeze the rents, and it only took him 45 days to announce massive tax hikes that will hurt the middle class and result in rents being raised. This is why we don't elect communist kids. Now, here's the secret that people don't want you to know about New York City. New York City was already unbelievably expensive. Most lower class people cannot afford to live in New York City. They would have to go a little bit further out because it is so unbelievably expensive. So when you say something like, I am going to do a tax hike on anybody who's over $122,000 a year median, middle class, that is the majority of the poorest people in New York. That is the basic income that you would need for a family to live in New York, at least. Middle class people are going to be impacted by this a lot more. Because I'll tell you this much. If you take a 10% cut and you have to add that to your taxes, if you're making $122,000, you're going to feel it a hell of a lot more than somebody who's making millions of dollars. Yes, the millions of dollars needs to give more because it's 10%, but they have so much more at home. If you have $122,000, do the math, that is a lot of money for you to be giving over. So guess who suffers from this? The middle class. The middle class, the middle class, the middle class, which is probably the majority of people who live in New York City who aren't very wealthy. It's so sickening to see this guy who literally stands up there being like, this is almost as bad as 2008 economic crash. And that's what we're going to have to do, guys. We're all in this together. No, you are the problem, Mamdani.
They are, so that the other do is ensure that they remain as they are, so that the city can be on firm financial footing. However, in order to get to this point of closing the gap on both this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, we are forced to raid the Rainy Day Fund, the Retiree Health Benefits Trust Reserve, and to increase property taxes across these other years.
So that's to pay for illegals and food and housing and healthcare and childcare and education. It's a lie. It's fraud.
Those who have watched budget after budget, it is tempting to assume that we are engaging in the same dance as our predecessors. Let me assure you, nothing about this is typical.
No, you're
That's
a communist.
why our solutions won't be either. There are two paths to bridge this gap. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. The onus for resolving this crisis should not be placed on the backs of working and middle-class New Yorkers. If we do not fix this structural imbalance and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return, year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
What an absolute piece of shit. That's it, guys. That's it. That's the guy that they voted in. Surprise, surprise. He's a liar. He's an Islamist. He's a socialist. And he's going to destroy New York. And I'm really, really hoping that the governor has an actual ability to somewhat rein this person in, but it doesn't seem like it. And I don't know if there's a scandal big enough, because they've thrown everything at Mamdani. They've thrown the fact that his dad's probably Epstein. They've thrown the fact that he is actively a supporter of Islamist initiatives, that he's been funded by Qatar. They've thrown everything, that he is pictured with terrorists. I mean, literally everything you can think of. And still, the guy has managed to get into power. I don't know how they bring him down, but you're going to need to. Or New York City is going to become really bad. Really bad. And that is just terrible. But it's also a warning for everybody around who thinks that maybe voting in these people who lie about becoming the beacons of light for society, when actually they're just socialists and Islamists combined, which is literally the worst combination you can think of. That is not somebody that you want in power. Hopefully America has learned. Thank you for your attention to this matter.